Visionary. Today I have something a little bit different from what I normally do. And a few of you have actually asked me in the past, Tom, could you review some race cars? And I know we're going to do this one right here and going to work on a few others. If you happen to have a race car and you live in the Shreveport, Louisiana area or close by and you would like for me to put your car on video, especially an A-Fuel dragster that just happens to be over in Benton, yeah, I'd like to do that sometime, so hit me up. My email address is on the screen right now. But for today, I'm going to tell you about this Monte Carlo that has actually been owned by a couple of professional race car drivers on the NASCAR circuit. It was built in 2005. It is based on a Monte Carlo body. This isn't, of course, an original. It's a composite, but I'm going to tell you all about it on today's Vehicle Visionary. Before we get too far into today's video, guys, I want to share something with you. This is specifically for the guys watching, or maybe you ladies who want to share this with your husbands. The main purpose that the owner of this car uses the car for is for prostate cancer and asking people to make sure that they are guys, at least to make sure they're having themselves properly examined. And if you'd like to know a little bit more about what's going on with that, check out the website right here. It's on your screen as well. But you always want to take care of your health, and since my friend who owns this car is a survivor of prostate cancer, he's trying to get the word out to people and asked me to share that with all of you who are watching. And you know what? I want to meet all of you one day, guys, so take good care of yourself, and as this channel grows, I'm going to have a chance to meet you in person and in good health. Now you might notice that this car looks a little bit rough on the front end. That's because it's actually been raced, and it's actually kind of had a couple of different lives so far. Actually, I would say this is the car's third life. It started out being built for Jimmy Spencer, a name that a lot of you are likely to know, and then after he raced it for, I believe it was 2 years, starting in 2005, then it was purchased by Kevin Harvick Racing, and Kevin raced it for a while before eventually it was changed up a little bit and turned into a road course car. It was used in Texas at a driving school, and it saw life as basically a two-seater. We'll show you that in just a minute. But the car is powered by a 377 cubic inch Chevrolet engine making 600 to 610 horsepower. It's mated to a 4-speed Jericho transmission. And that's not the only cool things about this car. Let me show you a few things under the hood and some of the adjustments and interesting intricacies. That word's a little hard to say sometimes, but we only do this in one take, so we'll just go with it. But I'm going to show you some of the intricacies under the hood and on the car as we do a walk around. So there are a lot of interesting things about this car that you're not going to have on your average street car or a lot of other race cars out there. I know my background is mainly in the sport of drag racing, but this is dramatically different. One of the interesting things is while the front grille and everything is functional on the front of this car, the headlights are just decals. From a distance, they most certainly look real, but considering the fact that the tracks are very well lit, the cars actually don't need headlights, but they just look like they have them. Looks pretty real, but of course, as you can see on the front end, it also looks like this car has been around the racetrack a few times, and it most certainly has. Another interesting feature is found under the hood. It's what you're looking at right now, and this actually has to do with shock adjustments. In fact, this car in its current life is basically just a road course car. That's where the owner of the car normally takes it to a track in Texas, and it spent time actually at the Texas Motor Speedway at a driving school there in the second part of its 3 different lives so far. But I also want to show you something very interesting on the hood or not on the hood, but actually on the roof of the car. Again, we only do this in one take. But this is something you definitely don't have on your car, and in fact, you probably wouldn't want to have this on your car, but if you did have it, you wouldn't want to use it. Let me show you what I mean. Now, what I was talking about when it comes to some of the intricacies of this car that you don't want to have on your own vehicle because of the reason why they're here, well, check out all these little areas that come up on the car. These are basically flaps that come up to keep the car from turning over in case it goes backwards and air gets under it. It's very similar to what happens if you watch my video on the Porsche GT3 RS and you saw the vent louvers on the front end that actually keep the high-speed wind from actually making the car lift off the ground by having the air go through the vent. It's kind of the same principle here. So the flaps will actually come up on the cowl, on the roof, and keep the car from hopefully going airborne and turning over. This actually was implemented as a mandatory safety regulation on these cars in the year 1987 because of a crash in Talladega, Alabama involving Bobby Allison. The car actually went up into the catch fence, almost into the crowd. It did injure, I believe it was 28 people. And it's just one of those things where a situation like that brings about new safety mandates to keep not only the drivers on the track safe, but also the fans watching up in the stands. And of course, this is where the fuel goes in. When you see the pit stops, the gas man runs back and puts that giant gas can that he's carrying almost on his shoulder right in here. It automatically opens up and allows it to start filling. And of course, you can see the tank and everything in the trunk. The trunk of this car is actually very clean. It looks very interesting in there. You can see the filler neck going into the fuel cell. Very fascinating. Now, what about the business end where the action really takes place? What about the interior of this car? Let's take a look. Now, if you know what I enjoy reviewing most, you know that I like high-end, high-tech vehicles. Obviously, that's not something you're going to have with this Monte Carlo. In fact, the interior is actually very, very basic. Just a clutch, a brake pedal, a gas pedal, and a few gauges that tell you everything from the engine temperature, the oil pressure, just basic little things like that. The driver really doesn't have a lot of time to spend looking down at the dashboard when he's out on the racetrack with all the other cars going around. In fact, that's why these guys have spotters that are actually telling them what's going on around them, because they don't really have not only the opportunity to look around, it's kind of hard to do that when you're strapped in with the 5-point harness, and especially in this day and age with the Hans device, it makes it even harder to turn your head than it used to be, and with the way the seats are made as well. No infotainment system. I know that might come as a big surprise, but there is no screen on the dashboard. But when you're just going around the track, you don't really need to use navigation. At least I hope not. Now, if there's a driver out there who does, well, we might just have to deal with that, and maybe they shouldn't be a driver. I don't know. Okay, so this is the part of the video where normally I would either take a ride or drive the car. Well, guess what? We're actually going to do that today. So we're going to fire this baby up and actually drive it. So let's go. Y'all probably couldn't see it, but when we were cruising down the road in this awesome car, I had a big smile on my face, kind of like I did. Yeah, right there. Now, you know what was interesting about that? If you go back and watch the McLaren video, when I was really jamming through the gears, did you notice that my tongue was kind of sticking out of my mouth a little bit? Kind of like Mr. Bean. Oh well, I don't know what it is. One way or another, I have had an absolute blast today, and I appreciate all of you for taking the time to watch. Please be sure to leave me a comment and let me know you were here. If you liked the video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, make sure to hit the thumbs down button 2 times. That's very important. And be sure to subscribe to Vehicle Visionary if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you next time.